What if everything you were taught about sex your whole life is the very thing that's stealing your connection now? Let me tell you about Raymond. He's 72, gentle soul, retired school principal, recently divorced after decades of silence and distance. Then out of nowhere he met someone kind, someone warm. He hadn't felt that nervous since he was a teenager. They held hands, shared laughter. Then one night he tried to be close again, intimate for the first time in years. But his body froze, his mind panicked. She stepped back, and Raymond never tried again. Not because he didn't want to, but because he thought maybe he was broken. Before we go deeper, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Type your city or state in the comments below. And if this message already speaks to something you felt but never said, like this video, share it with someone you trust and subscribe for more honest, respectful conversations made just for men like you. Let's begin. Truth number 1, spontaneity is not the same as intimacy. For most of your life, intimacy may have felt effortless. You didn't have to think about it, it just happened. A glance, a laugh, a touch, and things moved naturally. That kind of spontaneity, the surprise, the rush, the pride in being ready at any moment, was part of what made you feel alive. It was your rhythm, your reassurance. You didn't need to talk about it. You didn't need preparation. You just showed up and everything worked. But if you're over 60 now, here's the truth. Nobody told you those rules no longer apply. Meet Franklin, 69 years old, retired firefighter, proud father, strong, healthy, and for the first time in years, falling in love again. He met Clara, a warm, graceful woman he met through a church volunteer group. They clicked over coffee and shared stories about grandkids and music. After months of companionship, laughter, and slow-blooming affection, the night finally came when things turned romantic. Franklin didn't plan. He didn't think he needed to. He expected his body to do what it had always done, respond. But it didn't. He froze. His breath shortened. His body, once so reliable, refused to cooperate. Clara noticed. She pulled away gently, but the moment was broken. Franklin mumbled something about needing rest, kissed her goodnight, and drove home in silence. He never called her again, not because he didn't care. Not because he didn't want to try again, but because in that moment shame took over. I felt like less of a man, he told me quietly. Like something I couldn't explain just disappeared. This is more common than most men will ever admit. One moment of failure, unprepared, unexpected, can ripple into months or even years of silence. It's not just a physical setback. It hits deeper. It touches your identity, your sense of worth, your connection to love. Many men like Franklin pull back completely. They stop trying. They avoid intimacy. They pretend they're fine, but privately they grieve a part of themselves they think is lost forever. But here's what I want you to hear clearly. Losing spontaneity is not losing intimacy. What worked at 30 was built on testosterone and youth. What works at 70 must be built on intention, communication, and preparation. That isn't weakness, it's wisdom. In fact, when intimacy is planned with care, it becomes deeper, more meaningful. Instead of pressure to perform, there's time to set the stage. Turn off distractions, create a quiet space. Talk with your partner about what you both enjoy. Take medications earlier if needed. Give your body a chance to support you. Focus on touch, closeness, and connection, not just the end goal. When you release the myth that you must be ready at any moment, you also release the fear of failure. But ignoring this truth isn't just disappointing, it can be dangerous. I've seen men land in the ER because they tried to perform like they did in their 30s, without pacing, without talking to their doctor, while taking heart medications and chasing a moment with pride instead of presence. Here's what you need to know. Sex after 60 is not a test, it's a shared experience. And when you treat it with care, it becomes safer, more satisfying, and more emotionally rich than anything in your younger years. So let go of the pressure to be spontaneous. You haven't lost your fire, you've gained a deeper, wiser flame. And if you've been through what Franklin went through, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're just being invited into a new kind of connection, one that honors your age, your heart, and the beautiful depth of intimacy that only time can teach. Truth number 2, erections are a window into your heart. Let's talk about something that might seem small, personal, even a little embarrassing. But in truth, it could be the single most important signal your body's giving you right now. It starts with noticing a change. Maybe things aren't working like they used to. Maybe you can't get or stay hard the way you did before. You chalk it up to age, stress, a bad night. But what if I told you that this subtle change in your bedroom might be your body whispering your heart is in trouble? Let me tell you about Tom, 67 years old. He's a retired contractor, always active, always moving. A proud grandfather of 4, still volunteers twice a week, still mows his own lawn. He came into my office not because he felt sick, but because things weren't working down there. "It's probably just age, Doc," he said with a half smile, looking embarrassed. But I didn't smile. I listened. I asked a few more questions, ran some tests just to be sure. What we found changed everything. Tom had a 90% blockage in his left anterior descending artery, the one doctors call the widowmaker. 3 weeks later, he was on the operating table getting a life-saving stent. He called me from his hospital bed and said something I'll never forget. I came in thinking I had a sex problem. Turns out I had a time bomb in my chest. This is what most men don't know, and what too few doctors explain clearly. Erections aren't just about sex. They are about blood flow. And the arteries in your penis, they're much smaller than the ones in your heart. That means they'll clog or narrow earlier. When blood isn't getting where it used to down there, it's often because it's not flowing well everywhere. That's why erectile dysfunction (ED) can be the first warning sign of something bigger. Hidden high blood pressure, undiagnosed type 2 diabetes, dangerous cholesterol buildup, silent coronary artery disease. And yet, too many men ignore it. They feel ashamed. They buy pills off the shelf. They keep it quiet, hoping it'll go away on its own. But here's what I need you to hear. That delay in seeking help can cost you everything. I've treated men who waited too long, who didn't say anything until the damage was already done, until the stroke hit, until the heart attack came in the middle of the night, until the silence became permanent. And it's not just the physical toll, it's the emotional one too. When a man feels like his body is no longer under his control, it chips away at his confidence, his self-worth, his desire to reach out. He pulls away from his partner. He gives up. He starts to feel invisible. But it doesn't have to be that way. The truth is, you have more control than you think. If something's changed, don't ignore it. Don't cover it up. Don't carry shame. Instead, treat it like the signal it is. Get your heart checked. Run the tests, have the conversation. Because that one awkward doctor visit today, it could give you 10 more healthy years with the people you love. I've seen men in their 70s feel like themselves again, not because of some miracle, but because they listened to their body and acted before it was too late. So if you've noticed something different, don't hide from it. Listen, respond. And remember, what's happening in your bedroom might be the key to saving your life. Truth number 3, intimacy is emotional medicine. When most people think of intimacy, they think of the physical act of touch of arousal of sex itself. But after the age of 60, intimacy becomes something far more powerful. It becomes emotional medicine. Let me tell you about Walter. He's 74, a retired railroad engineer, widowed 5 years ago after nearly 4 decades of marriage. Since then, he's lived alone in a small home just outside Pittsburgh. He still mows his lawn, still makes his own coffee every morning. But his house has gotten quieter, and so is he. When Walter first came to see me, it wasn't for any specific pain. He didn't complain of ED or heart issues. He just felt numb. He couldn't sleep. He didn't feel like eating. His blood pressure was creeping up and no medication seemed to help. When I asked about his relationships, his eyes dropped. "I haven't held anyone since my wife passed," he said. "I guess I figured that part of life was over." But what Walter didn't know, and what most older men are never told, is that intimacy isn't optional. It's not a luxury. It's a basic human need, especially as we age. You see, touch isn't just comforting, it's chemical. When we experience affection through a hug, a hand on the shoulder, or even an honest, tearful conversation, our bodies release powerful neurochemicals like oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. These aren't just feel-good hormones. They regulate our mood. They lower cortisol, the stress hormone. They support our immune system. They help us sleep. They are the difference between surviving and actually feeling alive. When intimacy vanishes, something much deeper happens than we realize. The nervous system becomes starved. The mind becomes quiet, not peaceful, but isolated. And the body responds with rising blood pressure, chronic stress, inflammation, and yes, even depression. I've seen men like Walter age 10 years in half the time, not because of illness or injury, but because they had no one left to hold, no one to listen, no one to touch or be touched by. And here's what's even more heartbreaking. Many of these men aren't single. Some are still married, but the emotional connection has faded. They sleep in the same bed, but haven't truly felt each other in years. Others live alone, but are surrounded by people and still feel invisible. So here's the truth I need you to hear. You don't need to be in a relationship to have intimacy. Emotional closeness can come through deep conversation, trusted friendship, even self-compassion. But it does require one thing: courage. The courage to be vulnerable again, to say I need this, to ask for that hug, to hold someone's hand and mean it. Walter started small. He joined a community walking group, nothing romantic, just neighbors who walked the trail each morning. He told me the first time someone clapped him on the back after a walk, he almost cried. "I didn't know how much I missed being touched," he said. And slowly things shifted. His blood pressure dropped. His sleep returned. He began writing letters to his grandchildren. He started showing up to church again, not to find someone, but to feel part of something. He didn't need to be 20 years younger. He just needed to feel human again. So if you've pulled away, if you've told yourself that intimacy doesn't matter anymore, I want to gently challenge that belief, because the science says otherwise, and so does your heart. You are not too old to feel, not too late to connect, and not alone in your need for closeness. One moment of real connection, one act of courage can shift everything. Your health, your spirit, your sense of being alive. And that, my friend, is a kind of medicine no prescription can match. Truth number 4, porn kills. Confidence and connection. There's something most older men never talk about, but many quietly experience. It happens late at night, when the house is quiet, when loneliness creeps in. You click a screen, watch something that feels exciting, private, even comforting in the moment. But what happens after? That's where the damage begins, not just to your body, but to your spirit. Let me tell you about Richard, 71 years old, retired Navy, proud, disciplined, married for over 40 years. He told me he hadn't touched his wife in almost 5. "It's not like we fought," he said. "We just drifted apart." And I figured this, he gestured to his phone, was easier. What started as an occasional escape had become a daily habit. And soon the real world just couldn't compete. His wife's body, her rhythm, her warmth, they no longer stirred him. He grew impatient, then distant, then resentful. Eventually she stopped reaching for him too. This is the quiet cost of pornography in later life. It's not just what you see, it's what you stop feeling. Because the truth is, your brain learns what you feed it. When you watch porn regularly, especially in isolation, your brain rewires itself. You begin to crave novelty, not connection. Perfect bodies, instant arousal, no talking, no emotion, no imperfections, just friction, noise, and finish. Over time, that's what your body gets used to and what it starts requiring. Touch alone doesn't excite you anymore. Your partner's presence doesn't spark anything. You begin to struggle with climax or need visual stimulation to even get aroused. Some men even report complete loss of interest. And then perhaps the hardest part, you're left with a kind of silence, a hollowness, that quiet moment after release when the screen turns black, and you wonder why you still feel so alone. That's when the shame creeps in. You start to think something's wrong with you. You feel distant from your partner, but also from yourself. You begin to doubt your manhood, your value, your place. But let me tell you something important right now. You're not broken. You're just disconnected, and you can find your way back. The first step is honesty, not with your partner, not yet, but with yourself. Acknowledge the habit. Don't excuse it. Don't judge it. Just name it. Then take one step at a time. Reduce how often you watch. Take breaks. Notice how your body reacts when you let yourself feel without the screen. Re-engage with your partner, not for sex, but for closeness. A hug, a shared laugh, a soft conversation in the dark. Touch with no goal. Presence with no performance. And here's the beauty: when you do this, something incredible begins to happen. Your brain heals. Your sensitivity returns. You begin to feel, again, really feel. Your wife's smile feels warmer, her hands stronger, your body more alive. Confidence doesn't come from how many times you perform. It comes from how deeply you connect. And that's something no screen can ever give you. Richard made the change. He told me the first time he kissed his wife, without needing a warm-up from a video, he cried. Not because of shame, but because he realized he hadn't been fully present with her or with himself in years. So if you've been stuck in that loop, quietly relying on porn to feel anything at all, you're not alone, but you are capable of change. This isn't about guilt. It's about reclaiming your connection, your desire, your sense of self. Let go of the screen. Reach for what's real. Because the most powerful kind of arousal is the one that touches your heart, not just your body. Proving you're still young can be deadly. There's a moment that sneaks up on a lot of men in their later years. Maybe it comes after a good doctor's visit. Maybe someone says, "You don't look a day over 50. Or maybe it's sparked by new romance, someone who makes you feel alive again in a way you haven't in decades. And in that moment, something stirs deep inside. A voice that says, "You've still got it." A challenge, spoken or not, to prove that age hasn't changed who you are. That's when the danger begins. Let me tell you about Raymond, 74 years old. Funny, vibrant, full of charm. A retired insurance agent who still wore pressed shirts and carried a handkerchief just in case. He'd recently started seeing Marina, a woman 20 years his junior. Their chemistry was undeniable. They laughed easily, held hands like teenagers. And for Raymond, it felt like waking up after years of sleep. But with that excitement came pressure. He wanted to impress, to perform like he used to keep up without missing a beat. So one night over dinner, he had 2 glasses of wine, though he usually didn't drink. He skipped his heart medication just this once, he told himself. He took an over-the-counter enhancement pill. No big deal, it's natural, right? Then he stepped into the bedroom, ready to prove something. But inside, Raymond's body was not celebrating. It was screaming. His heart rate soared, his blood vessels strained, his breathing turned shallow, and within minutes, everything collapsed. Raymond died in that hotel room, not because he wasn't a man, but because he forgot that being a man means knowing your limits. Sex is not just pleasure, it's a physical event. Your heart pumps faster, your blood pressure rises, your muscles, lungs, and circulatory system go into full gear. It's no different than climbing a hill or doing a short sprint. And if your heart isn't prepared, if you're ignoring medication, mixing substances, or pushing through discomfort, you're not making a statement. You're playing with your life. I've spoken to widows who told me their husbands died doing what they loved. But behind the smiles and euphemisms is heartbreak. Because those deaths weren't peaceful, they were preventable. The problem isn't desire. The danger is in trying to prove something instead of sharing something. And I get it. For many men, sex becomes tied to identity, to youth, strength, and self-worth. Slowing down feels like giving up. Asking for help feels like failure. Saying let's take it slow feels like an admission of weakness. But the truth, slowing down is wisdom. Asking for help is courage. And saying let's take it slow is one of the most loving, powerful things you can say to yourself and your partner. Your partner isn't expecting you to perform like you did at 30. They're not asking for theatrics. They're asking for connection, for presence, for safety. And your body, it's not your enemy, it's your teacher. Listen to it. If your heart skips, if your chest tightens, if you feel dizzy, pause. If you're taking meds, be honest about interactions. Talk to your doctor before using enhancement products. Set the scene gently. Let desire unfold, not explode. Because you don't need to prove you're still young. You need to protect the years you still have. The most intimate thing you can offer someone isn't a performance, it's your honesty, your attentiveness, your willingness to show up as you are not who you used to be. Raymond didn't die because he wanted to love. He died because he thought he had to be the man he once was instead of the man he had become. You haven't lost your manhood. You've gained something greater: wisdom, patience, depth. So next time you feel the urge to prove something, pause. Ask yourself, is this about love or fear? And then choose presence over pride. It may just save your life. Let's take a breath together. You've just heard 5 truths that most men never get to hear until it's too late. And maybe, just maybe, one of them hit closer to home than you expected. You now know that losing spontaneity doesn't mean losing your manhood. It means learning how to love with intention, not impulse. You've heard that a struggling erection might be your heart asking for help, not just your ego taking a hit. You've learned that intimacy after 60 isn't just physical, it's emotional medicine. And without it, your body and spirit quietly begin to fade. You've seen how porn may offer escape, but often steals your ability to feel real, messy, meaningful connection. And perhaps most sobering of all, you face the truth that trying to prove you've still got it can cost far more than your pride. It can cost your life. But here's what I need you to remember. You are not broken. You are evolving. You are not less of a man. You are a wiser one. And now you have a choice. Talk to your doctor. Talk to your partner. Talk to yourself with honesty. And if even one part of this message stirred something in you, type 1 in the comments. Let me know you're still here, still listening, still growing. And if you'd like more honest, respectful conversations like this, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and join this community of men who refuse to fade quietly. We're not done yet, not even close.